The Death Star slides into frame over Yavin and the music goes quiet. It doesn't roar in. It arrives the way a wall arrives. Gray, pockmarked, the size of a small country. Inside it, a man in a swiveling chair can end a planet before his tea gets cold. And to be fair, it is cool. It is the coolest object in science fiction. But who's making lunch? Because there are 1.7 million people on that thing. They all eat, not once either. 3 times a day, every day, for 20 years, inside a metal ball in hard vacuum. No farms, no rain, no Tuesday delivery from the local co-op. The Empire built a machine that can erase a world, and then it had to solve a much harder problem. It had to feed everyone standing inside the machine, so that's what we're doing today. We're going to buy the steel, cook the meals, haul the garbage, and sign the paychecks. And by the end, you'll see that the Rebel Alliance was never the Empire's real enemy. The real enemy is lunch. Now, I don't want to make the lazy version of this argument. The lazy version is, space magic isn't real. Obviously it isn't. They have artificial gravity, faster than light travel, tractor beams, and a lightsaber, which is a sword made of nothing. Fine, I'm granting all of it. I'm not here to argue about physics. I'm here to argue about Tuesday. Let's start with the build, because everyone starts with the build. Canon says the Death Star is 160 kilometers across. The older Legends material says 120. I'm going to use the smaller number, because I want to be generous to the Empire. Back in 2012, a group of economics students at Lehigh University actually ran this. They assumed the station has roughly the same steel-to-empty space ratio as a modern warship, which is a solid working model. They came out at about 1 quadrillion tons of steel. Call it 1,000 trillion tons. Now here's where it stops being a number and starts being a problem. Earth currently produces about 1.8 billion tons of steel a year. That's every mill, every furnace, every country, all of it. Divide one into the other, and you get roughly 580,000 years of global steel production. Not 580, 580,000. Homo sapiens has existed for about 300,000 years. You would need to start the project twice before humans existed, and you'd still be waiting. The Lehigh number for the price tag was $852 quadrillion. Against today's world economy, that's about 7,400 years of everything the entire planet makes. Every car, every haircut, every sandwich, for 7 millennia, all of it going into one ball. And if that number did something to you, the like button is right there. The subscribe button is next to it. Apparently, this is what we do here now. Anyway, here's the twist. Earth actually has enough iron in it to make about 2 million Death Stars. The material isn't the problem. The material was never the problem. The problem is throughput, and throughput is going to kill everyone in this story. But the money isn't what breaks the Death Star either. The money is the easy part. Hold that thought. So steel is test 1. Now we move to test 2. Lunch. 1.7 million military personnel. Let's be generous and give them 2,500 calories a day each, because operating a super laser is stressful work. That's 4.25 billion calories a day. Every day, forever. Let me make that touchable. A Big Mac is 550 calories, so the Death Star needs about 7.7 million Big Macs a day. In mass, using a mixed ration diet, you're looking at roughly 2,800 tons of food arriving daily. That's about 100 shipping containers. 100 containers of food, docking, unloading, and vanishing every single day for 20 years and then again tomorrow. Over a year, that's about 1 million tons of groceries. The Death Star doesn't have a kitchen. The Death Star has a supply chain with a laser bolted to it, and every gram of it comes through a door. That's the part nobody thinks about. There's no field on level 4. There's no orchard. Every calorie that keeps a stormtrooper upright was grown on a planet, loaded onto a freighter, and flown across a galaxy. Then it was carried through a docking bay by a guy who is definitely not paid enough. Cut that freighter off and the most powerful weapon ever built becomes a very expensive place to starve in. And food is only half of it, because people also drink. Give each of them 20 liters a day. That's drinking, cooking, and the world's most disappointing shower. It's a stingy number. A modern warship spends far more per sailor. Even so, that's 34 million liters of water a day. 14 Olympic swimming pools, arriving every morning, forever. Water is heavy. Water is the single most annoying thing in the galaxy to move, and it doesn't compress, and it doesn't stack. So you recycle it, obviously, which means somewhere on this battle station there is a machine turning yesterday's crew into today's coffee. And if that machine ever stops, the Death Star has about 72 hours before it becomes a very large tomb with excellent lighting. Which brings us to Test 3, and Test 3 is worse, because what goes in has to come out. The average human produces about 128 grams of solid waste a day. Multiply by 1.7 million, and the Death Star generates roughly 218 tons of it daily. That's about 80,000 tons a year. A Nimitz-class aircraft carrier weighs about 100,000 tons. So every 15 months, the Death Star produces an aircraft carrier, made of exactly what you think. Add urine, and you're at 2.4 million liters a day. Add regular garbage, and let's be stingy here and say half a kilo per person, and that's another 850 tons a day. 310,000 tons of trash a year. So what's the plan? What is the Empire's actual waste management strategy? We know the answer. We've seen it. The plan is a room that crushes things, and living in that room is a one-eyed tentacle creature. The Empire did not hire it, did not budget for it, and cannot fire it. That's the department. The Death Star's sanitation division is a monster in a swamp, and it's stowed away. And when the compactor's full, they eject the whole mess into space before jumping to light speed, which means the Galactic Empire's official environmental policy is littering on a stellar scale. There is no collection day out here. Nobody is coming for the bins. Now, Test 4. And Test 4 is the one that actually ends the argument because it isn't about matter at all. To crew this station on opening day, the Empire needs 1.7 million bodies ready. Construction ran about 20 years. So that's 85,000 people recruited, trained, cleared, transported, and housed every year. 233 people a day, every day, for 2 decades. Before anyone has fired anything. And that's just to fill the seats once. Military organizations lose people. Even a very good one turns over 10% a year. That's another 170,000 replacements a year. I know that number looks different in a galaxy with clone banks and conscription. Work with me here. It doesn't get smaller. Here's my favorite part. At 40,000 a year per head, the entire payroll for 1.7 million people is about $68 billion annually, which sounds enormous, until you remember the steel bill was 852 quadrillion. The people are a rounding error. Grand Moff Tarkin, governor of the Outer Rim territories, terror of 1,000 worlds, master of quarterly headcount planning. Now, at this point, someone is already typing. And what they're typing is this. The Empire runs a galaxy, a million systems. This is pocket change for them. Yes, and that is exactly why it doesn't matter. Wealth was never the constraint. The Empire proved it could afford this. It strip-mined a holy moon for crystals and hollowed out Jeddah City to power one gun. Affordability isn't in question. What's in question is that a galaxy's worth of resources still has to arrive through a finite number of docking bays, on a schedule, forever. You can be infinitely rich and still be late. Ask anyone who has ever waited on a delivery, and the story confirms it, twice. Look at the timeline. The plans exist during the Clone Wars, and the frame is roughly complete within 2 years. 2 years for the shell, then 18 more years of nothing visible happening. 18 years of what? Of supply lines, of Kyber crystals from Jeddah, of a super laser that refuses to work. The construction wasn't slow because the building was hard. It was slow because everything had to be carried there. Then look at what happens after Yavin. The station dies in about 30 seconds. 20 years of recruiting, gone in a single afternoon. And what does the Empire do? It starts a second one and has it mostly functional in 3 years, which is a triumph of engineering and also the single most suspicious logistics claim in the entire saga. They didn't get faster, they just stopped filing paperwork. And here's the last thing, the thing that ties it all together. 1.7 million bodies generate heat, so do the reactors, the kitchens, the lights, and the room where they crush the garbage. In space, heat doesn't blow away. There's no air to carry it off. A sealed metal sphere with 2 million warm mammals inside it will cook itself unless you give the heat somewhere to go. So you build a vent, a big one, a thermal exhaust port. Everybody laughs at that exhaust port. Everybody calls it the dumbest design flaw in cinema. It isn't a design flaw, It's plumbing. It's the price of keeping 1.5 million people alive in a box. The Empire paid that price. The bill came due over Yavin, which means the greatest weapon ever built has a hole in it because of lunch. Every meal served aboard that station ends as heat. Heat has to leave. So you cut a vent in the strongest armor in the galaxy, and you point it straight at the reactor, and you hope nobody notices. Somewhere in that 20-year build, an engineer is holding a schematic and shrugging. That's fine. Nobody's going to fly down there. He was wrong by exactly one guy from a moisture farm. So could they build it? In the story, obviously, they did it twice. Could a real civilization with unlimited energy manage it? Maybe, if you gave them 500,000 years and the whole planet. Could anyone actually run it for 1 calendar year without it becoming a floating supply chain crisis with a super laser attached? No, not for a month. You can build a weapon that kills a planet. You still can't build one that skips breakfast. Thanks for watching this one. Drop the next impossible thing in the comments and I'll take it apart. And because you made it to the end, I am legally required to give you a doggy cam reward. One last piece of doom for the people still here. Nobody ever talks about air. 1.7 million people breathe about 1 kilo of oxygen each per day. That's 1,700 tons of oxygen a day, and it all has to be scrubbed, recycled, and replaced forever, with 0 days off. The Death Star's most critical system isn't the super laser, it's the fans. Somewhere on level 9,000, there is a maintenance tech whose entire job is filters. Nobody has ever thanked him. He was also, almost certainly, the only person aboard who understood what the exhaust port was actually for. He filed a report about it, someone shelved it, and that, more than any Jedi, is what blew up the Death Star.